Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak and it's now 27 minutes to 7 o'clock. And I want to begin by looking at what we are pursuing for you today. Of course, yesterday following Chief Justice David Maraga's advisory to the President advising him to dissolve Parliament based on the failure to pass a law that would give to effect the two-third gender rule. We'll be looking at that later on. We'll be waiting for reactions. Of course, the National Assembly Speaker, Justin Muturi, has already said that the advisory is not practical. It would cause a constitutional crisis. We'll be looking at whether that is true and what needs to happen. But also today, we'll be following up on the story about the return to school that Cabinet Secretary George Magoha yesterday indicated that teachers need to return to school by Monday next week, that is the 28th, as the country awaits that conference that will be chaired by President Kenyatta on Monday to give direction on lifting of some of the measures that have been taken to contain the spread of the coronavirus disease at a time that we are told that the number of infections are on the decline. But now to focus on the state of governance here in the country, we are speaking to Wanjiru Gikonyo, with the National Coordinator at TISA. You're also with Senator Isaac Mwaura, who is a nominated senator from the Jubilee Party. Good morning, both of you. And I want to begin by taking your views about the decision by the Chief Justice yesterday that now he says that the President should go ahead and dissolve Parliament based on the very long list of reasons. Wanjiru, what are your thoughts now that we know that it's up to the President to make a choice on what he wants to do with that advisory?
Thank you so much, and good morning. I think it's a wonderful ruling. The Supreme Court has done it again, which is reinforcing that the Constitution envisages a constitutional democracy based on inclusion, based on human rights, based on empowering citizens. Really, the Constitution envisages a governance style that is opposite to what we had before, that was exclusionary, very elitist, had left out key constituencies, especially women. Now, the gender provision is progressive, and Parliament and the political leadership really has dragged its feet, because this is, unlike the other laws in the schedule of implementation, in the 5th schedule, this one did not have a fixed date. But what this ruling is indicting is the lack of political will of the leading administration that has refused to implement. In fact, the political parties on both sides, because now we are operating under a handshake. So we are saying, why should women wait? Why should the gender issue wait? And I'll close by saying, if you look at the COVID response and countries that fared well, of course, it's really been spoken about that women at the helm of leadership have provided the empathy and the kind of leadership and consensus building that's required to deal effectively with these kind of national pandemics. So getting women into leadership is not a favor, it's a constitutional requirement. And the Chief Justice is giving Parliament and the leading administration a shot in the arm, telling them, wake up, do your job.
All right, of course, we'll be talking about the various attempts that have been made. But before we do so, Senator Isaac Mwaura, good morning. What are your thoughts about this decision? Do you think it's binding or is just an opinion?
It's an opinion, and I think that is very, very interesting, because you need to know when to stop. I think Justice Maraga, I respect him a lot, but I think he's trying to create precedents about his legacy, because his time is coming to an end. And so therefore, he needs to be seen to have made some iconoclastic decisions, anti-establishment decisions. And remember very well, he has had a beef with the executive. I see this being one of those things you do to stem, process such as the BBI, which, in my opinion, also was trying to address the issues of gender parity. It is not going to take full effect, I can assure you.
It's not going to take effect, you feel so?
It is not.
But the Constitution, Senator Mwaura, requires that the Chief Justice shall advise the President, and the President shall dissolve Parliament. Where does an opinion come from there?
Where does the Constitution say that?
Let me quote it for you. It is just hold on.
And also
this is article. Just a minute, Senator. Article 261, subarticle 7 says that if Parliament fails to enact legislation in accordance with an order under clause 6B, the Chief Justice shall advise the President to dissolve Parliament, and the President shall dissolve Parliament. So is that an opinion or a requirement?
No, go ahead and read clause 6B.
Clause what?
6B, the one that it's referred to, what you've just cited.
That's what is just read.
No. There's a, okay. Let's yeah.
Let me read it for you. 6B. Let me just find it right away. 261. But in the meantime, so now when you say that, wait a minute, I got it. The High Court, in determining a petition under Clause 5, may transmit an order directing Parliament and the Attorney General to take steps to ensure that the required legislation is enacted within the period specified in the order and report the progress to the Chief Justice.
Exactly. What is the period specified in the order? There's no period. The word is reasonable time. What is reasonable time? Reasonable time could as well be 2022.
Within the period specified in the order. There was an order by the High Court of 60 days. In 2016, 2017.
I think this is wonderful. And if I can just chime in, the conversation we are having is about constitutionalism. And the question I think that the Senator needs to respond to is,
Senator, it's okay, just allow the interjection from Wanjiru.
Constitution. Are we under a constitutional democracy, or are we under a party political leadership based on some other principles that Kenyans did not abide by? And what in other constitutional democracies, when you have this kind of ruling, in fact, the political parties should be huddling together, trying to figure out, how do we do this? How do we do this in a manner that is manageable? But you will note, this is not the only advisory that the supreme law-making body of this country, which is Parliament, has reneged on. We had a similar standoff on the sharing of revenue between the counties because Parliament deemed that the CRA has an advisory role. The reason the Constitution created an advisory mechanism is because we have a consultative democracy whereby the principles of the Constitution are supposed to be interpreted based on consultation and cooperation. So when the CRA gives an advisory view, or when the Chief Justice gives an advisory view, actually you're being compelled. And the only reason it's advisory is to give that political roomway, not to buy time or give lame excuses or get into political contestation around it. It's really to find a way that works within the Kenyan framework. So I am very excited with this. And I hope
all right, Wanjiru. Senator, please just hang in there. I'll get to you. But Governor Alfred Mutua is now joining us. He's the governor of Machakos. Good morning, Governor. And we've started the conversation by reflecting on what the Chief Justice advised the President to do yesterday. Do you agree with that decision that it has to take the dissolution of Parliament for us to really realize the importance of passing the two-third gender rule?
I have read the letter by the Chief Justice several times, and I think the core idea here, the core concept, is a concept of impunity. I've listened to the Senator talk a lot, trying to defend the actions. I've listened to the discussions that have been going on online and elsewhere since that happened. And the issue here, it's all about impunity. We can quote the law. I mean, I've looked at the law. I've looked at Section 6A, 6B. I've seen the process and everything. The fact is this: the Chief Justice has done his work. He tried to get information from the Attorney General, from the others. We may disagree with the process, but the point is this: the Constitution is very clear that within 5 years of the new Constitution, which was 2010, we should have undertaken these steps or even call for a referendum to change things that we do not like. But we have got a laissez-faire attitude in this country where anything goes. That is why we're in the trouble we're in 60 years after independence, where we always have to react on a crisis. Right. So I do agree with what the Chief Justice is doing. He's doing his job, and he could have done it a long time ago. He's done it. I don't think there's any political witch hunt behind it. It is basic impunity, and people of Kenya are fed up. I don't know where,
so Governor, what do you think the President should do now?
Listening to this.
Governor, what do you think the President should do now?
When we worked for Kibaki, one of the things we would have done is call for an emergency meeting. We would have called for a cabinet emergency meeting with all the advisors, with the security agencies, and we'd have looked at all the options. And there's something that Ambassador Mudhara used to say, and that is you have to burst the bubble and you have to find a solution. I don't think that dissolving Parliament at this time is healthy for our nation. We've got COVID, we've got all these issues, we've got high unemployment. Going into an election mode at this time when we don't even have money to build roads and money to actually provide medicine to hospitals is the right thing. But nonetheless, the president has to act. He cannot keep quiet.
Right.
And we need to get to a place where we need to start respecting laws. We need to start respecting directives by the Supreme Court, because that's how the Constitution is set.
Okay, all right, we'll get back to that later on. But Senator Mwaura, I don't want to leave your point hanging. So you are the point of saying that it's just an opinion. Would you just conclude your point and tell us what the next action of the president should be?
Yeah, I think Wanjiru was extremely excited, and she just came in when I was processing my thoughts. And yeah, but anyway, I basically don't think anything else is going to really happen, because we do have a bill in the Senate called the Special Interest Groups Bill, and this bill is supposed to fulfill the provisions of Article 81 A, B, and C, and Article 100. It should be remembered that it's not just about gender. There are 4 other groups. There are women, there are youth, there are persons with disabilities. And Parliament is expected by dint of Article 100 to promote the representation of such groups in Parliament. So there's a law there, and it has not yet been concluded. I think it needs to be beefed up. I've already given my opinion that it's a little bit woolly, but there is a very clear, and concise, attempt to do so. And also, Senator Farhia also has a bill also in the same manner, but specifically for women. So you wouldn't say, for example, that this matter has been concluded without any recourse. Of course, I think there have been 2 attempts when I was in the 11th Parliament to pass the third gender rule, and it didn't succeed. But I think also there's something that we also need to address, that this directive is very questionable, in my opinion. Because
why so?
Is the judiciary itself compliant? What happens to governors and their deputies? What happens actually to the president and their deputies? So I don't quite agree with it. I don't think it is right for a Chief Justice who at some point also actually ran this country into a crisis with the way in which he handled the elections, whose results were actually demolished in the contrary opinion of the minority judges, could also do the same, because we must, the law does not exist.
Senator, I wanted us to really conclude on this. Just hold on, Wanjiru. Wanjiru, just hold on. Senator, I want us to conclude on this topic, but you are saying that the decision is questionable, that there are other institutions that are not compliant, and I heard you, the Speaker of the National Assembly, give the same argument. But when the law or the Constitution dictates what is supposed to happen, 9 years down the line, you've not been able to pass the legislation that is required to enact that two-third gender rule. Does it matter what other institution is doing, or we have to be specific to the provisions of the Constitution?
Do we have to be specific to a particular group and leave the others? Some, because I think there is no one group that is more important than the other also.
But it is the work of Parliament to enact the legislation.
And we have a legislation that is in the Senate, I've told you. There is a legislation in the Senate on special interest groups bill, because what has been happening is that women have actually taken up the issue of gender as more important than other groups of under Article 100, and I can see you have actually beamed it up here. And that is also where the problem is. Why hasn't Maraga not pronounced himself on those other groups? And I think he can say that he was actually restricted to the petitioners' prayers. But I think the law must also be seen in totality, because when you also do so, you are augmenting one group more than the other, and therefore marginalizing the people within the marginalization. So I think let us have an honest conversation. These hiatus that we are seeing in grandstanding is what I have called in the past hierarchical antagonism, and it's very anachronistic to our country.
Your reasons can be really grounded on evidence, but let me get back to you, Wanjiru. So now, with all this contestation, is there a leeway that the president can challenge this decision? Can he go to court?
Now, in terms of the legal framework for this, we'd have to seek some legal expert to speak to that. Okay. But what I would say is, on the principle of a constitution enacted popularly that is based on principles of constitutional democracy and inclusion, the kind of language that the senator is giving, yes, makes me very excited, but not in a good way. It makes me excited and very concerned that you would seek to downplay an advisory by the Chief Justice in this manner. So it goes to the heart of what ails Kenya. When you look at us, we are presently in a debt crisis. And I agree with, it's one of the few things I agree with the senator when he says that we don't have the money. Where did the money go? Parliament approved, and it did so in violation of legal and constitutional requirements, approved spending and borrowing that has driven the country into a crisis. So if you look at the heart of what ails us under the Jubilee administration, the impunity and lack of respect for the Constitution, attacks on the judiciary, these are the very culture we sought to uproot with the enactment of the Constitution. So what we are having here is really political impunity, fighting back against constitutional democracy. And what needs to happen, you saw what happened under the sharing of revenue, where we had a standoff. And it's unfortunate we had to see a mother deliver on the streets of Nairobi for the administration to wake up and say, let us do our job. Let us give the money that the counties need to get. Unfortunately, the same thing is happening here. So I don't agree with Senator Mwaura that it's only about women. It is incumbent upon the administration to interpret this advisory and deliver. And saying that we have legislation in the works, 10 years on, really, we have become wise to the antics of this administration, where they want to dilly-dally and cut political deals at the expense of implementing our Constitution.
Okay, all right.
Can I jump in here?
Yes, Governor, I want you to exit from this conversation. I don't know what your final thoughts are as we
I just want to say that I've been listening to Wananchi after this happened, and we have to ask ourselves, why are we in this position right now? And I agree and disagree also with Wanjiru and the senator, because it's not the issue of just Jubilee government. It happened to us also during, it started with Mwai Kibaki's government, and it was not done through the process. We have to ask ourselves, as a people of Kenya, we've got high unemployment in this country. Because the small and medium enterprises are not really functioning, because the laws and regulations and the monies towards them have not really been released. You look at what is happening in our country, most of the time people talk about Session Paper 10, Session Paper 20, all these briefs, all these task forces, all those documents are lying somewhere and they are not implemented. We are a country that does not implement our laws, our regulations, our task force recommendations. So we like doing things, to be seen to be doing things, but at the end of the day, we just put them there and life continues. We have in this Kenya a bourgeois society, the political elite, and they get very comfortable. They get into parliament, they become governors, they become senators, they become whatever. They become the bourgeois, they become the elite, and anything that needs to be done within a certain time, any role that needs to be complete, any project that needs to be complete, becomes an issue of process. It doesn't become an issue of results. And that is why our people are suffering today. So at the end of the day, I would not blame Chief Justice Maraga. At the end of the day, I would not blame just Parliament and all that. It is a culture of politics in this country and of leaders of this country of doing things the way they want to do it at their own time at the expense of Wananchi. And that needs to change. So all this debate going on is because of impunity, and it's because the country is ready for a shift and a change.
Indeed, impunity. And the Chief Justice and the President of the Supreme Court yesterday in his advisory to the President says that in the result, Your Excellency, it is my constitutional duty to advise you, the President of the Republic of Kenya, which I hereby do, to dissolve Parliament in accordance with Article 261, Sub-Article 7, but also talking about that let us endure the pain, if only to remind ourselves that as a country, being a democracy that has chosen to be governed by the rule of law, we must say no to impunity and hold everyone accountable for their actions or omission. So that's what the Chief Justice said. But I want us to switch gears and focus on the state of governance. Of course, last week, I believe, we saw the Senate finally pass the photo of a formula that would now indicate how revenue will be shared across different parts of the country. Excuse me. And I want to begin with you again, Senator Mwaura. So we see a promise of 53.5 billion shillings come next year, but there's that likelihood that this may not even be a reality given the situation that we face in the country. So I ask you, was it worth it? All the drama and so much time spent on arguing about a formula that eventually would appear almost similar to what CRA had proposed to yourselves?
No, no, not at all. I mean, Sam, you can't say that. I mean, really, this was a big, big achievement on the part of the Senate as a House of Parliament, because we were able to actually stretch the initial recommendation by CRA of 335 billion, and the failure by governors to agree with us when they settled for something far much less of 316.5 billion, up from 314 billion the other previous year. And I think this was a very good shot in the arm on the independence of the Senate. I think that form of dialectic materialism, where we have two polemic sides trying to argue for the cause of Kenya, was really, really timely. Why am I saying so? Because the formula does not set in until no county loses, so that means more money to the grassroots. And secondly, it gives a very great high threshold of monies to counties in the next division of revenue bill. And we in Senate are not going to pass the division of revenue bill as long as it doesn't provide for such monies. And we are not just doing things because we are not aware of the current COVID-19 crisis and the failure of government to collect enough taxes. Sam, remember, the Ministry of Health has got a whopping budget of 97 billion. This is equivalent to 16 counties combined, the allocation. So there's a lot of money, if you look at two ministries of agriculture and health, that would actually go to devolved functions. So basically, we have actually done very good for devolution. And I want to say this again, that devolution is a revolution. What we need, therefore, to do, as Ali Mazrui says, Professor, is eternal vigilance to ensure that that is actually implemented. If there are no monies for next financial year, it means the formula does not kick in. And that means then it will be very clear that there was no goodwill. But we do not anticipate such because with the current COVID-19, and Wanjiru, you've spoken about this because I've been very vocal about debt capacity. I saw the Minister for Finance, or National Treasury for that matter, saying that he's going to borrow about 1 trillion shillings. And I think that may give some fiscal headroom because then you retire, short-term, high-interest commercial loans for the longer-term ones, maybe with the Bretton Woods institutions. Again, we've gone back to IMF and World Bank. But does that then give us more room to tinker, or rather to use our ordinary shareable revenue better, and in this case, give more monies to counties? So I think for me, I stand very strongly by saying that was a very good deal, and it just stands to be implemented in principle.
All right, Senator. So, Governor Mutua, of course, we see that promise, and the Senator says that they'll ensure that that money is there before they pass the Division of Revenue bill. But from where you see it, of course, you've gone through a bit of suffering, if I may put it so, to the extent that you had to shut down operations for a few days, or is it hours? So what have we learned from this process? And do you trust that there will be the 53.5 billion shillings?
I think the Senate has tried, and they have come up with a formula that appears to be agreeable by all sides. It's a good formula. As governors, we like it, and we like the fact that it is happening. In Machakos, we are making money. I mean, we'll be getting more money as we grow the economy. That is okay. The fundamental question comes in, and that's what Jiro asked, did we have to shut down the counties before this is done? You remember in 2007, 2008, we had the post-election violence. The country was falling apart. Then Kofi Annan came to this country, and we had the Senate, the Serena meetings. It took 2 months and 2 days to sort out and draw up a coalition agreement to save this country from killing itself. The Senate has taken over 2 months and 5 days to achieve an agreement. This is because the first month basically was all about Tanga and Keleweke and all these politics. It was not about the people of Kenya. So this is also another example. Why did our people have to suffer? Why did it take the governors the huge step of shutting down counties, telling people you can't come to hospitals, you can't get services, for the Senate to get its act together? And it comes back. Yes, they have done a good job at the end of it, but it could have been done within a week. It could have been done within days. But we are in a country that loves political games, political plays at the expense of Mwananchi. So we're looking at it as governors. We are thinking, okay, let's see whether the money comes, because even some monies that have been promised to us, even the 50% was promised, has yet not landed. So we are waiting to see what happens. We may have to shut down our governments again very soon.
All right, Governor. Wanjiru, I'll come back with you, but we need to take a short break because also we'll need to listen to what Governor Oparanya had to say in as far as releasing of funds is concerned. But that's after the break. Stay tuned. You can text in your views via 22422 or Twitter's at Citizen TV Kenya at Sam Gituku. The hashtag to use is the break. We're back in a moment.